Welcome on into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Matthew Peterson. On today's mailbag, I'm answering questions that came in during our live show, which airs every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So tune in next Wednesday if you have a question you'd like for me to answer. Our first question coming in via Super Chat from Dolphin X. My boy Pete, give me your perfect Browns offseason given everything that's happened up to now. Go. All right, let's start with this. The Browns spark fear into the Giants. They have to move up to number 2 to select Shedeur Sanders, and they get New York's third-round draft pick out of it. So the Browns fall from 2 to 3, gain an additional third-round draft pick, giving them 3 altogether, and then with that third overall pick, they select Abdul Carter. That, to me, would be a very good start to the draft. I would love it if they could land Caleb Johnson or Omarion Hampton in the NFL draft as well in round 2. As for quarterback, because that has to be addressed. The sad thing is there's not a great option here. So I'm not going to try and give you guys a hope of Dak Prescott or Kyler Murray trade. No, that's not going to happen. At this stage, best case scenario is you get Kirk Cousins for dirt cheap and he looks like 2023 Kirk Cousins before the Achilles tear. He's 36. He's going to be all within 24 months coming off an Achilles, shoulder, and elbow injury, and those are grave concerns. Don't get me wrong. But I believe that the ceiling for Cousins is higher than any other quarterback available. So for that reason, if you can get him for cheap, I would rather go down that route than the Carson Wentz, Kenny Pickett route. Then in the draft, adding to the quarterback room, in round 3, I would select, and I don't think any of these round 3 quarterbacks are going to have very successful NFL careers, so I'm not going to get myself too attached to one or worked up over one or over the other. But I would look at Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. I said it. Mr. Savage, who is better, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? I think Cam Ward is a better quarterback. I think that his arm talent puts him in another level. There are plenty of examples of quarterbacks who have great arms that don't work out in the league. Zach Wilson most recently, but for me, I feel like Shedeur Sanders' biggest pros are pros that could be highlighted in a perfect system. And I don't think that Shedeur is going to find himself in a perfect system if he's taken early in the draft. If you're picking early, it's because your team stunk last year. And I think that Sanders' game requires much more development than a team picking 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th overall wants to give him. And it's ultimately going to lead to a coach getting fired and Shedeur getting traded before his rookie contract is up. Seymour Butts. Could the Browns trade for Derek Carr? So on Wednesday, there was a lot of chatter, if you will, to put it lightly, around Dak Prescott maybe getting traded to the Browns. That's not going to happen. I don't think the Saints are going to trade Derek Carr either. I don't believe Kellen Moore took the job in New Orleans to trade Derek Carr away. I think he took that job in part because he wants to work with Derek Carr. He's a young, up-and-coming coordinator. He likely could have passed on the Saints, and he likely would have had another opportunity next year, like Ben Johnson. But he decided to jump at the Saints opening because I think he wants to work with Carr. And I don't think one of his first orders of business is trading Derek Carr away so the Saints can do what? Turn to Spencer Rattler? Ian Book, is he still there? Or Jake Haener or this draft, which is not very loaded at quarterback? No, I don't think Derek Carr is going to be available for a trade. Now, if you had to pick between one of the 2 NFC South quarterbacks, which one would you rather have? Carr or Cousins? In a vacuum, Carr. But for what it's going to cost, probably Cousins. Because I don't want to see the Browns give up more valuable draft pick for another big contract and feel like they are just trying to recapture 2023 and not accept the fact that after you win just 3 games in a season, you have some more work to do than just insert a new quarterback. Football prods, who do you think is most likely to be the Browns starting quarterback? Good question. Gun to my head, week 1, the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback is, I believe, Kirk Cousins. I think that is who I believe the Browns are going to go after. I think a trade could happen after the draft. Baker Mayfield was traded from the Browns to the Panthers in July. He started for Carolina week 1. I think we could see a Cleveland-Atlanta trade sometime in May or June or July, and he's going to be the week 1 starter. So that's where my prediction is right now. Football prods, thank you for your question. Roy, take a tight end in the draft. This draft is very deep at tight end. There's the LSU tight end, Mason Taylor, Harold Fannin from Bowling Green. Njoku is entering the last year of his contract, and you don't have much depth beyond him. I'd be very much on board with finding a new young tight end if you don't envision extending Njoku after the season is up. So, yes, I'm definitely interested in selecting a tight end in this year's draft. Duck Life Official. I think the Browns will draft a QB number 2 overall because if Myles is staying because of the QB plans, and if that's the case, I wouldn't stay if Kenny Pickett and Carson Wentz were expected to start. I agree with everything here. This is the one thing that keeps me tethered to the idea of Cleveland taking Shedeur at number 2, despite all the recent rumors and mock drafts pointing to Abdul Carter. Myles definitely sounded like a person who was very excited for the quarterback. And I agree. I don't think it was for Kenny Pickett or Carson Wentz. So either the Browns flat out lied to him, or they told him we're going with Shedeur, and he's excited for that. This is going to be a roller coaster. I still believe the Browns are going to go with Abdul Carter at number 2, but it's a very good point you raise. Before we check out some of the other questions, sorry for all the crackling. This headset's just getting a little old, I guess. Go to chatsports.com/CLE hat. It's got an awesome deal right now. This Brownie the Elf hat is 70% off. So if you want some more Browns gear in your closet without paying a ton of money, use our link. I put it in the comments and description of today's video. Chatsports.com/CLE hat. Gino, trade up for Cam Ward. I'm going to say no as a personal opinion. I do not think the Browns should trade up for Cam Ward because I don't think Cam Ward is going to pan out to be a franchise quarterback. So if it involves giving up more draft capital for someone I already have one too many hesitations about, you're not going to convince me. Plus, I've never heard of a team trading out of first overall for a quarterback they would end up regretting letting the other team take. Right? I don't think the Bears regret letting the Panthers pick Bryce Young. I don't think the Titans, regret letting the Rams take Jared Goff. So if the Titans themselves don't even want Ward and they have the opportunity to get him, that's a big enough red flag for me to go, not interested. Christopher, this QB class will be backups in 3 years. I agree, Chris. I think there's a much greater chance of this coming true than Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders getting their 5th-year options picked up or getting a second contract from the team that selects them. I don't believe in this draft class still. I didn't back in January, and the only thing that's changed from January to now late March is time. And time is a killer for the draft because people get bored. They get bored, and they want to come up with new ideas to keep things fresh. And those that make a living off the draft, the mock drafters, the big boarders of the world, they know that nothing leads more than a quarterback. So what do? They build up quarterback interest. And then fans get sold on these quarterbacks. I'm not going to sell myself on it. I remember how I felt, and a lot of people felt about this draft class at the quarterback position when the season wrapped up. It's not a very good one. Aaron Pierce, does Kirk say yes to us if we take a QB at number 2? No. I think if the Browns tell him we'd like to trade for you, please waive your no trade clause for us, but we are going to take a quarterback at number 2. He goes, no. I'm not going to uproot my family, go from one backup job to another when I can just stay put in Atlanta and be a backup here and not move myself to Northeast Ohio and play in the cold and be a backup for a different rookie there. So no. Aaron, appreciate your question. Braden, hot take. If Sanders didn't have Hunter, would he go second QB off the board? Do you think Will Howard has potential with his frame and vision. Go, Bill? Yeah, you'll explain the last part for me there. But I think there's always a quarterback tax. I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur goes closer to 32nd than goes first overall. I think this could be one of those quarterbacks that begins to slide, and everyone's like, what's going on? And it's like, is this really news to you? Like, no one thought he was a lock of a first-round grade. As for Will Howard, this is fighting words for Ohio State fans watching. No, you can mark me down as a doubter, and you can come back and dance on my grave in a few years. I don't believe Will Howard is going to make a very successful NFL quarterback. I'm going to pass on him for the Browns. If you get him in round 4, okay. Why not take a chance at that point? Anything earlier, and you're losing me. Eric, with the way the QB dominoes have fallen and with Kirk in prison, is there another QB out there that Cleveland says, we have to go get him now? It's a good question, Eric, and I think the answer is no. Right? Like, you can kind of just... Here are some quarterbacks that would have a 1% chance. Kyler Murray, Tua, and Herbert. And they don't even have a 1%. They just have a better chance than guys like Burrow. You know what I mean? Like, just players that you know are not going anywhere. I only mention them because Tua with the injuries. Kyler, I feel like, may not be a good leadership fit in Arizona. And I could see Harbaugh going, the way I run my team, I don't need a highly paid quarterback like Herbert. I'd rather invest elsewhere, and I can get a ton for Herbert and turn out a better team. But in the NFL, you need a quarterback. So I don't have another option for you, especially with like Geno Smith already traded now, Sam Darnold gone. There's just no other options out there. Eric, thank you so much for your question, though. Noah, what are your thoughts on Brandon Ayuk coming to the Browns before the draft or on draft day? It is weird that the Niners gave him that extension and then did not slam the door at the combine on a possible trade. I think they regret giving Ayuk the extension, and with the knee injury on top of it, they would be very open to the right offer. And the Browns expressed interest before, and they like to circle back on players. Andrew Berry has almost exclusively built his receiver room via trade. I think this one has a greater chance than just 1%. Still not very high, but I think it does have a little bit better of a chance than just no way in hell this happens. Robert, remember how Johnny Manziel dropped in the draft? He won the Heisman and dropped way down because people were afraid of him. Yeah, he was definitely a draft, surprise as far as he fell. There were a lot of off-the-field concerns with Manziel, and those all turned out to be exactly correct. There's no off-the-field concerns with Shedeur. There were some rumors during the combine that he did not do very well in his meetings. I wouldn't be shocked if those rumors came out from teams picking late that just want him to fall so they can, spook some of the teams picking early in the draft. Tim Green, I was disappointed on your take of Will Howard earlier. He's shown that he thrives under the lights with his playoff performances, and I feel he'd be a great fit in brown and orange. I just have a few points here. One, for all the Browns fans that want to take Will Howard, would you feel this confident about it if he played for Oregon and they won the Natty? I would suspect no. I think a lot of this is just rooted in you watched him a lot at Ohio State, so you've got a better grasp on him as a prospect. You know him more than other quarterback prospects. And you want to keep the bloodline going from Columbus to Cleveland. So why not take your favorite Buckeye from this past season? As someone who is not an Ohio State fan and doesn't have the bias and can step away from it, no, I don't think Will Howard's got the arm talent or the accuracy to warrant an early draft pick. I feel like he wasn't even a top 10 player on his own offense. That might be a bit of a stretch, but all of his receivers, both of his running backs, and his 2 tackles, I think are going to go before him in the draft. Tim, agree to disagree, but we'll know in 2 or 3 years what Will Howard was as a prospect and whether or not the Browns made a mistake selecting him or passing on him. If he does turn out to be great and the Browns passed on him, there's going to be riots. Richard Bell with a super chat. Let's throw up Richard's super chat while you guys think of which card you want to pick for our random pick a card at the end. Richard, just a moment, sorry. Ayuk with Judy and Njoku would be a solid receiving core, be a good start to rebuild in the offense. Don't disagree. I don't expect Ayuk to be ready for the start of the season, and I think coming off an ACL and MCL injury, we should have learned our lesson from Nick Chubb that even when he does come back, like remember when OBJ came back, he was also not looking very good off the ACL tear. So have a little bit more patience. But if you feel like this, if the Browns trade for Ayuk, it's for 2026. Let me put it that way. I don't expect much from him in 2025. But the Browns could get him for like a third-round pick and all of a sudden find themselves with an incredible Pro Bowl, all-pro receiver in 2 years. Just with a little bit of patience. Let's pick a card. Keith is in the chat. Which card do you want to go with, Reed?
Can I go with Jack of Hearts?
Okay. I'm going to go with 3 of Diamonds. 8 of Spades. 8 of Spades. That is going to do it for us on today's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off and see everyone later.